Lives continue to be forever altered by violence while city leaders tout success as the violence continues with a pair of deadly shootings in broad daylight. New tonight, our team is digging into the numbers that tell a different story.
We're attacking folks that are doing the right thing. We're doing things kind of backwards.
We press state lawmakers on the decision to limit where legal gun owners can carry, but taking little action to get illegal guns off the streets. From car crashes to robberies, other states facing multiple issues after legalizing marijuana. We look at what Maryland is doing to avoid the same pitfalls. A community left in the dark last night as county police search for a shooting suspect near a popular mall. We question why the public was not notified when they could have been in danger.
It's just unacceptable.
Live from WBFF in Baltimore, this is Fox 45 News at 10.
Good evening, everybody. I'm Mary Bubala.
And I'm Kai Jackson. The Baltimore Police Department is out with a new report touting a reduction in violent crime over the last 4 years.
I worry that all these fine words on paper are not a real reflection of what the community feels on the streets.
Now, the report comes on the same day 2 people were killed in 2 separate shootings. So far this month, Baltimore is averaging a murder a day. The rise in juvenile violence continues. Police confirming today a 16-year-old was killed in Northwest Baltimore yesterday afternoon. That teen is the 8th person under the age of 18 killed in the city this year. And given that violence, some say now is not the time for the city to be touting violence reduction. Fox 45's Keith Daniels joins us live with more on this tonight. Keith?
The Baltimore City Police Department releasing the data, the stats on their crime fight over the past 4 years since Commissioner Michael Harrison came in to lead the department. Some of the highlights the department is touting: enforcement and proactivity measures, noting a 33% increase in gun arrests since 2019, a stronger accountability with Public Integrity Bureau.
Juvenile crime going on.
Well, the mayor announced the city will enforce the curfew after 2 teenagers were shot while hundreds of young people gathered at the Inner Harbor Sunday night. He says the curfew will keep children and the community safe. You can find more on the curfew on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Well, tomorrow, a city council committee will hold a hearing with the Baltimore Police Commissioner, school police chief, and sheriff to talk about how those agencies can work together more effectively to improve public safety. Fox 45 News will keep a close eye on that hearing, and we'll keep you updated both on air and online. And on Thursday, City State's Attorney Ivan Bates will mark his first 100 days in office. Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost will host that town hall with Bates to talk about the milestone this Thursday night at 7. Join us at New Metropolitan Baptist Church on McCullough Street. You can also watch the town hall live on foxbaltimore.com. And if you would like to submit a question, just scan that QR code right there on the screen.
In Annapolis, there are serious concerns over what lawmakers left on the cutting room floor, as it were, now that the 2023 legislative session is over.
Fox 45's Mackenzie Frost explains why some Democrats are frustrated with a bill targeting legal gun owners and the lack of action on juvenile violence plans.
One Democratic senator describes the work on Senate Bill 1 as backwards, noting not much was done to address the illegal firearms that are in communities, all as the violent crime trend continues to impact cities like Baltimore.
We have the quorum in the chamber.
Before the balloons even dropped, the bill limiting legal gun owners getting the green light. Despite significant Democratic support, not everyone okay with telling legal gun owners where they can bring their weapons.
I think that it kind of got even more challenging, and I do think that it has consequences. constitutional issues.
Democrat Senator Cory McRae saying not going after illegal guns was a mistake.
We're attacking folks that are doing the right thing, having a classroom hours, going to get the certification, and are more cognizant about the challenges if they are able to use their firearm, but being in a situation if they do have to, that it would be there versus the illegal firearms. We're doing things kind of backwards.
While lawmakers crack down on legal guns, the floodgates remain open for illegal weapons and repeat offenders. No action taken on implementing tougher penalties for repeat violent offenders. The bill making the theft of a gun a felony never moved out of committee. Republican Senator Johnny Ray Salling says lawmakers are playing politics with plans that could save lives.
They're not being voted on out here, and people should be very upset because it's not going on.
Another topic hardly addressed, holding young people accountable for breaking the law. Pressing Delegate Luke Clippinger about why some bills never came out of his committee. Do you think that there was a missed opportunity for lawmakers to implement tougher penalties for these young people who are cycling through the system?
We did raise the penalty for wearing and carrying a firearm.
That plan, City State's Attorney Ivan Bates' idea, and focused on offenders 21 years old and older. Nothing for tougher penalties for teens. Meanwhile, 14 people 18 or younger in Baltimore City have been killed this year. Baltimore police arresting 4 people under 18 for 3 different homicides. There was a bill to allow kids 13 and younger to face charges. Again, not going anywhere. Now, Clippinger passing responsibility off to the governor and his administration. How long will this rebuild take while this violence continues?
Well, that's not a question for me at this point. It's a question for the secretary.
Governor Moore saying more penalties for kids won't solve the problem.
We are not going to arrest or militarize our way out of the juvenile crime problem.
Rather, more investments in education. But in Baltimore City, the school system already struggling to see success in the classroom. Moore doubling down on his call to reduce guns in communities, throwing his support behind Senate Bill 1 and saying illegal guns are the problem.
We've got to be able to focus on getting these guns off of our streets, these illegal guns off our streets.
Despite the governor's words, the actions from his own party in both chambers downstairs signal otherwise. Despite the legal concerns, Governor Wes Moore says he will sign Senate Bill 1 into law. In the State House, Mackenzie Frost, Fox 45 News.
Well, the Gun Safety Act is in response to the U.S. Supreme Court striking down Maryland's good and substantial reasoning requirement to obtain a wear and carry permit. Opponents say the new law is unconstitutional, and they are preparing to take it all the way to the Supreme Court. On Fox 45 News at 4, we spoke with former city prosecutor and current defense attorney Kurt Nachman about what the future might hold for Senate Bill 1.
I think the odds of this law being overturned are substantial. There's a case that came out of the Washington, D.C. called Heller, and it had some very similar restrictions to the restrictions that have been imposed here. There are a huge number of places in this bill, almost everywhere that you could possibly go, that you would not be able to lawfully carry a firearm with a permit. And so, the Heller case basically said you can't make it so impossible to carry in a public place, and I think this bill may step over that line.
Well, supporters of Senate Bill 1 say any restrictions on firearms will reduce the risk of gun crime, but some law enforcement experts concerned with the potential effectiveness say that many people who commit crimes have legal guns.
I have arrested probably 200 to 300 people for weapons charges. And out of those 200 to 300 weapons people that had charges for weapons, I honestly can only remember 2 who actually had valid gun licenses.
That brings us to our question of the day. Will lawmakers in action on crime change the way that you vote next year? So far, 97% of those people who voted say yes. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote to weigh in.
It's been another beautiful day outside. Our temperatures reached the 70s, and now the numbers are slowly starting to fall. We're seeing areas in the 50s and the 60s around the state. You can expect temperatures to continue to fall overnight. We're dropping to the 50s, though, and that is well above our average for this time of year. That's been the main theme. Tomorrow, it gets even warmer. I'll let you know how high the temperatures get and when to expect the next chance for rain coming up in my full forecast. Back to you.
Next on Fox 45 News at 10, Maryland provides a roadmap to regulating recreational marijuana. We look at what happened when other states took similar action and how Maryland hopes to avoid any dangerous consequences. Plus, Governor Wes Moore's first signee die, the bills he signed into law, when they take effect, and how they will affect you. Shots fired by the White Marsh Mall last night, but no alerts sent out to the public. The response when we asked why, and the police union's criticism directed at department leadership.
Recreational marijuana will be legal in Maryland in less than 3 months. Lawmakers passed a framework for it during this past session.
That's right. And now Fox 45 News is looking to other states with legal pot for issues we should be on the lookout for.
Fox 45's Jeff Abel joins us live right now with more on what we could expect after July 1st. Jeff?
Well, come July, Marylanders will be allowed to possess 1.5 ounces of marijuana. That is equal to the amount of tea that's in these 3 tea bags, a small amount that some critics say can produce some very big problems.
Madam Speaker, you know I love you, but you have to sit down.
I am not sitting down.
The legislature may have erupted in fireworks, but not before a bill legislating marijuana was passed, and not before a fierce warning.
It's not about cannabis. It's about how the system works in the real world instead of the ivory hall of this chamber.
In November, voters made it legal for Marylanders to possess 1.5 ounces of marijuana. Lawmakers have fought now over the guidelines to govern it. But in the end, they approved a marijuana sales tax of 9%, estimating it'll generate $67 million in the next 4 years.
We're here to try to regulate this so we can have a safe usage, but basically get rid of the black market.
While recreational marijuana is expected to generate millions, it's also expected to bring a multitude of other problems with it.
6 thieves, 4 cars, in and out in just 15 minutes with hundreds of pounds of marijuana.
If you want to make some money, you're going to go to a pot dispensary where you've got maybe, $100,000 or more worth of marijuana just sitting there.
Mike Gimbel is the former drug czar of Baltimore County, who predicts legalizing small amounts of marijuana will produce a large amount of problems. In Colorado, researchers found drug-impaired traffic deaths soared 15% the year after that state approved a similar measure.
You can have people driving a car, being at work, walking down the street, eating some gummies or eating a marijuana brownie, and they're going to be impaired because it's a much higher level of THC that we've ever seen before.
At a hearing last month, lawmakers insisted they consulted other states when drafting Maryland's new law.
Really comprehensive equity measures that builds off of lessons learned here in Maryland through our medical cannabis licensing process and through what other states have experienced across the country.
But Gimbel is shaking his head.
It's a big mistake, and they did it for one reason, to make money.
That new law also allows each Marylander to grow 2 cannabis plants. It will take effect the 1st of July. We're live tonight. Jeff Abel, Fox 45 News.
Jeff, thank you. Now, here's a look at other bills that passed this year. The state will fast track when the $15 minimum wage will become law. It will take effect in January instead of 2025. Also, lawmakers addressed paid family leave. The new law requires the cost of premiums for the program to be split evenly between workers and employers.
These 2 programs will lift at least 34,000 Maryland children to the next rung of the economic ladder. This is a culmination of days and weeks and months of planning and hard work.
And the state's primary will be moved from April to the 2nd Tuesday of May next year to accommodate those who celebrate Passover. The election board will also be allowed to count mail-in ballots 8 days before early voting starts. For a complete recap of the issues lawmakers addressed, head to our website, foxbaltimore.com.
Still ahead, a shooting near the White Marsh Mall has the community shaken. Why it's raising questions about transparency within the Baltimore County Police Department.
Some of Bud Light's loyal customers boycotting the beer after its new partnership with a certain social media influencer. I'm Kayla Gaskins in Washington with that story straight ahead. We've been enjoying nice, dry, and warm weather across the state, and the trend continues over the next few days. We're looking at a rise in temperatures tomorrow as highs reach the low 80s. It'll be even warmer on Thursday. Highs will be in the mid-80s. We stay in the mid-80s again on Friday, but after that, we cool down. I'll let you know when to expect the next weather maker and how cool temperatures get coming up in my full forecast.
Taking a look now at the Fox box, top left a massive industrial fire, prompting thousands to evacuate in eastern Indiana. The site is now used to hold recyclables, including plastics. Officials say it could burn for days and that anybody near that fire, but outside the evacuation zone, should keep windows closed and pets indoors.
On the top right, as police departments struggle to hire, Florida leaders say they recruited more than 500 officers from out of state last year, in part due to bonuses that were offered. Governor Ron DeSantis plans to add $10 million to that recruitment program.
Bottom left, Tupperware may be on the verge of going out of business. The iconic brand, once in just about every home, has been around for more than 70 years. But as its stock plummets, the company says it has substantial doubt about being able to continue.
On the bottom right, Google is dropping its requirement that people have to be vaccinated against COVID in order to enter any of its buildings worldwide. While the policy was previously strict, its employees are largely able to work from home now. Google is hoping this will encourage some to return to the office.
Bud Light and its parent company getting some heat from some loyal customers following its partnership with a TikTok star.
National correspondent Kayla Gaskins hears from both sides of this debate.
An iconic American beer company brewing up controversy.
I got some Bud Lights for us.
By teaming up with TikTok star and trans activist Dylan Mulvaney.
This month I celebrated my day 365 of womanhood, and Bud Light sent me possibly the best gift ever, a can with my face on it.
The video met with immediate backlash from the right. Country music star Kid Rock responding.
Let me say something to all you and be as clear and concise as possible.
By firing rounds at cases of the beer. The move, part of a larger campaign by Bud Light marketing VP Alyssa Heinerschneid to update the company's frat boy image.
What does evolve and elevate mean? It means inclusivity. It means shifting the tone. It means having a campaign that's truly inclusive and feels lighter and brighter and different and appeals to women and to men. And representation is at sort of the heart of evolution.
Loyal customers now boycotting the brand. Country singer Travis Tritt now removing all Anheuser-Busch products from his upcoming tour. John Rich says no one will buy Bud Light at his downtown Nashville bar.
That was the number one beer. We got cases and cases and cases of it sitting back there. But in the past several days, you're hard-pressed to find anybody ordering one.
Entering the political conversation is often tricky for companies.
There are, I think, understandably concerns when a corporation puts reaching new customers and making new political statements and entering a culture war above turning a profit.
Anheuser-Busch stock dropping 3% after the Mulvaney partnership. And while it's still beating its competitors, industry experts say distributors in the South and the Heartland are, quote, spooked. Bud Light taking an apparent volume hit this past weekend. In Washington, I'm Kayla Gaskins.
That brings us to our national question of the day. Do you think it's appropriate for companies to get involved in social issues? So far, 91% of those who voted say no. You can head to foxbaltimore.com/vote and click on the Pulse tab to weigh in.
Well, we are getting our first look at body cam footage from the deadly mass shooting at a Louisville bank. What that video shows a rookie officer did despite the danger.
The search is on to find out who leaked sensitive government documents online, and the consequences could be highly damaging. I'm Scott Thuman in Washington with new information.
We're following three big stories at 10:30.
An activist group is suing the FBI for records about a gun they say Hunter Biden owned, the information they're demanding access to, and what it could reveal.
Now that the 2023 legislative session is over in Maryland, Governor Wes Moore is signing his first bills into law. We'll hear from the governor one-on-one.
More questions than answers after a shooting near the White Marsh Mall last night after a county council member warned the public instead of police.
We begin there. The councilman posted a warning on social media long before police said anything about the incident.
The president of the Baltimore County Police Union says there's an ongoing issue with transparency in the police department. Fox 45's Rebecca Pryor has calls for change.
14 has the victim, and medics are in there now.
As officers responded to a shots fired call near the White Marsh Mall.
Aaron K9 for White Marsh. 16 said Olive Garden, correct?
Olive Garden employee Dante Cannon says his phone was flooded with questions.
Oh, what happened? What's going on?
Questions he had himself. Cannon was off at the time his co-workers claim a gunshot victim burst through the doors with a wound to the head in desperate need of medical attention.
That's when he was attended to by my manager and the host that were working up front.
The incident took place around 8:30 Monday night, just after the mall had closed, but many area businesses were still open as police searched for a suspect.
Aviation 915 was asking if you could do a flyover in reference to a shooting that occurred. Flyover the woods in that area, checked there's no one in it.
Wondering if it was safe to return to work, Cannon turned to local news outlets and social media for answers, but was met with little to no information.
It was mainly what information people could glean from what people had told them from eyewitness, but no further information on the victim or the suspect.
Despite the incident unfolding near a public place, no alert was sent out and no mention was made on any of the Baltimore County Police Department's social media pages. Fox 45 sending questions to the department last night and this morning, asking, why wasn't the public provided with more timely information? And was there a public threat at any time? Those questions not directly answered. Police only releasing this statement late this afternoon, writing, quote, at this time, this is believed to be an isolated incident.
The community has not only a right to know about these things as they occur, but a need to know.
For safety reasons, Baltimore County FOP President Dave Folderauer says the public needs to know when to avoid an area. And if an area is safe, timely and accurate information can be used to ease fears and calm concerns.
They just need the information. They can process that information and they'll make their own decisions.
But in case after case, Folderauer says the public is being left in the dark.
It happens repeatedly, and I don't understand it. It's just unacceptable.
Rebecca Pryor, Fox 45 News.
Meanwhile, a 14-year-old was shot in Essex just before 1 o'clock this morning, but police didn't put out any information until 3 this afternoon. Police say they responded to Cape May Road for shots fired and found the victim about a block away. The teen is expected to be okay. No word on any suspects. Anybody with information is asked to call police. And leaders with the Baltimore County Police Department say change is coming with the newly appointed police chief, Rob McCullough. He is a former public information officer. And if the county council confirms him next week, the FOP president says he expects transparency will improve. Maryland's legislative session is over, and now it's up to Governor Moore to sign bills into law.
Brad Bell with our Sinclair sister station talked one-on-one with the governor about some of those new laws.
Governor Wes Moore says he proposed 10 bills for the legislative session, and though some were heavily amended, all passed, including raising the statewide minimum wage to $15 an hour next January and making earned income and child tax credits permanent for working families.
The largest tax cut for military veterans under age 65 in a generation. We're talking about bills that is going to make the most direct attack on child poverty that this state has ever seen. We're talking about bills that are going to create a service year option for high school graduates in the state of Maryland. First time in the country that we've ever pulled that off.
The governor speaking during an exclusive interview before he signed more than 100 bills into law. He did not today sign one of the more controversial bills, one that will restrict where licensed gun owners can carry their weapons, a measure some say targets legal owners, not criminals.
I think we have to address both. I think we have to address the fact that we have illegal guns that are flooding into our neighborhoods, and we have to address the fact that there is no reason for people to be bringing firearms into hospitals and churches and schools. I think this all goes back to what does it mean to have an all of the above philosophy when it comes to public safety.
The governor promising a focus on public safety and juvenile crime issues in the months ahead and in next year's legislative session. He also says the state's massive education spending plan for public education may need tweaking as it becomes more and more apparent it may be too expensive for jurisdictions like Prince George's County and Baltimore City.
Well, I believe in all the tenets of the blueprint. I also, though, know that we have to make sure that we are funding this smartly and in a coordinated fashion. And that's really where the work to make sure we're getting this right comes.
So we don't know yet.
We've got some work to do.
And yet this governor who uses charm as a legislative weapon and who remains relentlessly optimistic says that he will tackle those challenges ahead, public safety, juvenile crime, and finding a way to pay for the Kerwin package. It remains to be seen how he'll achieve those goals. In Annapolis, Brad Bell, Fox 45 News.
Today, we learned that Governor Wes Moore is headed to the United Kingdom tonight. It's part of a trade mission and philanthropists and innovators summit in Oxford. The governor is expected to speak at the forum Thursday and meet with London business leaders. Now, the governor is traveling with 2 staffers, and the cost of that trip will be $14,000 to Maryland taxpayers.
Governor Moore swore in Lieutenant Colonel Roland Butler as superintendent of the Maryland State Police Department today. The governor says Butler is the best person to move the department forward. Fox 45 News has been looking into the timeline of Butler's nomination. Butler retired from service last December, but Maryland law states members cannot talk about re-employment before the retirement to receive a pension. It is not clear when conversations about Butler's return to work began. You can find more on the timeline on our website, foxbaltimore.com.
In Washington, D.C., police are looking for a person they say opened fire at a funeral home, killing someone and injuring 3 others. Officers say that gunfire happened about 20 minutes after a funeral service let out, and that the attack was targeted. The funeral was being held for a gun violence victim, and police often have extra presence there as a precaution.
At the family's request, oftentimes we do when we have homicide victims, we will extend, additional police presence in the area of a funeral.
Shootings at funerals have happened in Baltimore as well. Police went on to say that they are not sure why the people were targeted, but they are looking into possible connections between today's shooting and the original homicide in March.
In Arlington, Virginia, video shows police handcuffing somebody after an armed bank robbery. Authorities say 5 people inside were held hostage, including a child. They were eventually safely escorted out of the bank and no one was hurt. Our sister station in D.C. says the suspect is in custody.
We are getting our first look at the body cam video from officers responding to that deadly bank shooting in Louisville, Kentucky, and we warn you, it is difficult to watch. This is video from the first 2 responding officers. Louisville's deputy chief says the suspect set up an ambush in the bank lobby after killing several co-workers and wounding others, preparing to fire upon first responders as they made entry. One of the officers was shot in the head. The others scrambled down the stairs, taking cover. And there are several tense minutes before the suspect shot out a window, giving the officer a chance to see him and then fire back.
It is not something that comes easily. It is not something that comes naturally. Anybody who gets shot at reacts. For people to react by staying there, staying in the fire, and going back inside the scene, keeping themselves in danger, that's superhuman. Those men are amazing.
Well, the officer who was shot in the head, Officer Nicholas Wilt, graduated from training 10 days before the shooting. The deputy chief noted he never hesitated to go toward the gunfire. Wilt remains in critical condition and is sedated after undergoing surgery. Developing tonight, conservative activist group Judicial Watch is suing the FBI for records about a gun reportedly owned by Hunter Biden. Judicial Watch accuses the Bureau of withholding records after the group filed a Freedom of Information Act request in January. Judicial Watch references a 2021 report from Politico in its complaint detailing an incident from October of 2018 where a gun said to be owned by Hunter Biden was thrown in a trash can behind a grocery store in Delaware. Judicial Watch accuses the FBI and Secret Service of trying to protect the president's son.
U.S. intelligence officials are trying to find out who leaked dozens of classified and top secret documents online.
As Sinclair's chief political correspondent Scott Thune explains, there are more questions than answers.
Within the walls of the Pentagon, an urgent search for answers underway after sensitive intelligence documents were leaked online. The first headlines detailed secret U.S. military efforts in Ukraine, but now also include allegations Egypt was covertly planning to help Russia by producing and providing them 40,000 rockets, something Egypt denies, but drawing attention to a relationship between those two countries that would undermine U.S. efforts.
If that's the case, then it also begs the question, why wasn't Congress, why weren't leaders of the Foreign Relations Committee given that information?
Since America gives over $1 billion a year to Egypt in security assistance, a partnership that would now have to be reassessed. Other documents indicate Russia may have convinced the powerful United Arab Emirates to conspire against America too. On the flip side, the U.S. may also be embarrassed by the leaks supposedly revealing how America spies on other nations, including allies like Israel and South Korea.
The concern we also have is what else is out there. That's why we're working diligently to try to find out what the source of this is.
The questions adding up fast. What's the source of the leak and the motivation behind them? And once the dust settles, how widespread will the implications be as officials nervously wonder, are there more on the way?
The truth and the honest answer to your question is we don't know. And is that a matter of concern to us? You're darn right it is.
The White House saying it doesn't know if the leak was by someone with direct access to the materials.
Is it an American? Is it somebody else? Is it both? These are big unanswered questions that we need to get to the bottom of, and quickly.
While the Justice Department investigates, the White House cautioned some of the documents appear to have been altered, meaning they can't be completely trusted. But in too many ways, the damage already done. In Washington, I'm Scott Thune.
The IMF lowering its forecast for global economic growth. I'm Atrel Nashar, and coming up, what that means for American families and businesses.
And we're getting ready for a big warm-up. Tomorrow's temperatures reach the 80s, putting us about 17 degrees above average, and it gets even warmer on Thursday. I'll let you know how high the numbers get and when we cool down coming up in my Weather Authority forecast.